In a corner of Lagos where yellow buses rolled louder than pastors with microphones and the scent of grilled plantain floated like prayers through the air, a baby cried into the world beneath an old mango tree. The wind that morning was strange, cold, dry, and whispering. It was Hamatan, the season when Lagos revealed its royal's face. The baby's mama, Mama Wuji, a widow with laughter lines and stronger shoulders, swore that just before the baby's first cry, she saw the mango tree shed one golden leaf directly onto the child's forehead. The women around her gasped. This child go dey different, they murmured, and so she was named Adeze, daughter of a queen, though everyone in the area would simply call her Z. Z grew like a wind, wild, stubborn, and impossible to ignore. She asked questions no one wanted to answer, like why boys could play outside shirtless and she couldn't. Why did everyone went quiet when her aunt brought that woman friend over? Why her heart beat faster when her neighbor's daughter Chinonso braided her hair and smiled long. Mama Uju always responded with proverbs. A fly that follows the corpse enters the grave, she would say, which made no sense to Z. She wanted truth, not metaphors. She wanted freedom, not warnings. But Lagos doesn't give the truth easily. It hides it beneath noise, hustle, and tradition. Z learned early to tuck her curiosity into pockets no one could reach. By the time she turned 10, she knew she was different. Not just because she was smart or creative, but because her soul didn't fit into the boxes the world had built for girls like her. And that mango tree, still standing in the family compound, kept watching, as if it knew Z's story had only just begun. By the time Z entered university, she had become a master of disguise. To the world, she was the witty girl who helped others with literature essays, the one who made jokes during hostel water shortage and danced at parties like her joy had no weight. But in the quiet corners of the room, she stitched together her truth, thread by thread. Her roommate Kemi introduced her to Tumblr, a magic world where girls kiss girls without apology. Z devoured it like fufu after fasting. It was when she discovered her second grade love, tailoring, not the type that fixed school uniforms, but the kind that made statements. She began designing clothes in secret, mixing bold colors and rebellious cuts. It was a way of speaking when her lips had to stay silent. Each garment was a protest, a prayer, a poem. She didn't have the words to say, I'm here, so she let her fabrics do it for her. After school, Z moved to Yaba, a land of chaos and opportunity. There, every street had a preacher, a pepper seller, and someone shouting about recharge cards. Took a tiny room above a vulcanizer's shop. It was hot, cramped, and perfect. Z finally had space to breathe and chew and dream. She set up a tiny tailoring shop called Z's Closet. Most thought it was just cute name, but Z knew what it meant. It was a truth wrapped in humor. Lagos didn't make life easy. Nepo struck like a thief in the night. Customers bargained like it was sports. Aberos catcalled from morning till night. But Z learned to love. Every hardship became a story, every insult a stitch in her growing armor, and in the midst of it all, she began to find people like her, online at first, then slowly in real life. They met in hidden cafes and quiet rooms, sharing secrets and jollof, and for the first time, Z didn't feel alone. Shadi came into Z's life like a rainstorm, sudden, loud, and impossible to ignore. She was a customer at first, asking for a jumpsuit with extra pockets for snacks and secrets. She laughed, and Shadi grinned like she owned the sun. One fitting turned into two, then three. Soon they were drinking Zobo on Z's balcony, laughing over everything and nothing. Shade was bold in the way Z wanted to be. She didn't hide her quirkiness. She wore it like lipstick, bright, unapologetic, and always matching her mood. They never labeled what they were. They didn't need to. Some nights they cuddled, some nights they cried, some nights they danced under the moonlight like their hearts had made peace with Lagos. Shade made Z feel seen, not just as a tailor or a secret keeper, but as a full, living person. One night, after a long power outage and a shared meal of noodles and sardines, Shade said, You are magic, Z. Don't forget that. And Z didn't. Not for a very long time. One humid Tuesday, as the sky threatened rain like a drunk uncle threatening insult, Z's shop was raided by market officials. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint that her clothing line was encouraging immoral dressing. They said her dressing designs were too bold, too western, and spoiling the girls. Z watched as two uniformed men inspected her mannequins like they were criminals. They didn't find anything illegal, only fabrics, thread, and imagination. But the damage was done. Gossip spread like Hamilton fire. That Taylor girl, the one with string designs, they whispered. She did do that lesbian thing. Business slowed. People who once begged for her pieces stopped coming. Even Mama Chidema, who used to bring her akara every Friday, stopped looking for her in the highs. The first time since starting Z's closet, Z questioned everything. Was Lagos really big enough to hold her truth? In moments of crisis, Nigerians' mothers turned to God. Mama Uju, who sends the rumors from whispers in their hometown, came unannounced with two large Ghana must-go bags and a bottle of anointing oil. She said she was staying for spiritual cleansing. Z knew better. She'd come to perform the Lagos version of an exorcism, dragging your child to church until their madness prayed itself away. Auntie Florence, the self-declared prophetess of fire of tender ministry, laid hands on Z with such force that her wig nearly shifted. She shouted, "Out, out, you spirit of Jezebel!" While Z stood still, eyes dry, inside she laughed. Not out of disrespect, but survival. She's heard stories like this. She just never imagined staring in one. After 3 days of vigils, Z calmly told her mother, "God knows my heart, and I think she likes me exactly as I am." Still reeling from her mother's visit, Z poured her emotions into writing. That night, by candlelight, at the hum of her neighbor's generator, she posted an anonymous blog entry titled, "How to be Queer in Lagos Without Dying Inside." It was raw, funny, and heartbreakingly royal. She didn't expect anyone to read it, but by morning, it had gone semi-viral in queer Nigerian circles. DMs poured in, people thanking her, sharing their own stories and secrets, asking if she had a safe place they could meet. One girl from Ibadan wrote, "You made me feel human again." Z cried, this time not for fear, but from overwhelming purpose. Her shop might have been quieter, but her voice had gotten louder, and Lagos, noisy as it was, had finally started listening. With all the chaos, Z forgot the one place he had always found refuge, Shade. But Shadi had been distant lately. Calls went unanswered, texts delivered but stayed blue and cold. Z assumed it was work stress. Shadi was a copywriter for a tech startup that changed names more than PHCN. But something deeper was wrong. One night, Shadi showed up unannounced, her eyes swollen from crying. Her parents had found her private journal. They knew everything. They want me to go abroad. Some program in South Africa. They say I need to get away from people like you. Z's heart shuddered quietly. She held Shade close, knowing loving wasn't always loud. And just like that, Z lost one person who made Lagos feel soft. Heartbroken and exhausted, Z returned home for the first time in months. The mango tree stood tall, old but still watching. She sat beneath it like she did as a child, knees hugged to chest, whispering to the breeze. Mama Uju joined her without a word, handing her roasted corn and a bottle of Fanta. For a while, they sat in silence, and the kind only family can share. Finally, Mama Uju said, "I don't understand everything, but I remember the day you were born. That mango tree dropped a leaf for you. It never did that for anyone else." Z looked up surprised. Her mother continued, "Maybe you were made for a different kind of story. Just be careful. It wasn't acceptance, but it was something like peace. And for now." When Z returned to Lagos, something in her had shifted. Shade's departure had broken her heart, yes, but it also cleared space. Space for purpose, space for resistance. She cleaned up her shop like it was a shrine. She changed the signage from Z's Closet to Z's Closet, tailor of stories and dreams. Some laughed, some rolled their eyes, but a curious new crowd started coming. Girls who wore trousers with swagger, boys who stitched skirts with pride, and non-binary folks who asked for bright embroidery on dark coats. Her shop became more than a place to buy clothes. It became a community. People came not just to dress, but to breathe. They cried in her fitting room, shared secrets over chin-chin and molds, and slowly the walls of Lagos stopped closing in. Z realized she wasn't just sewing, she was weaving safety, stitch by stitch. She created what she had once longed for. One day, a lanky girl named Tommy came in, shoulders hunched like she owed the world an apology. She wanted a dress, but not a girly one. Z didn't flinch. "You want fire or tender?" she asked, eyes tickling. and twinkling. Tommy cracked a smile. That was how it began. Z started offering her back room as a makeshift meeting space. Come if you need her, she would say, or if you need to scream. What began as a room with leftover fabric and an old fan became a sanctuary. They called it the safe room. Every Sunday, people gathered, queer folks of every shape, size, faith, and fear. They read poetry, watched Nollywood films, discussed crashes, and prayed in their own way. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. In a city that demanded max, Z had built a safe space for faces. But good things rarely go unnoticed in Lagos. One morning, a familiar woman walked past Z's shop, holding her phone suspiciously. Z recognized her. It was Mama Chidinma, the Akara seller turned born-again informant. Within days, rumors, reignited. You're doing initiation there, someone said. Lesbian called. Another whispered. Anonymous calls started. One claimed Z was hosting satanic meetings disguised as tailoring sessions. Z's landlord came knocking worried. They said they will report us to the local council. Z stood firm, but inside she shook. Fear had many forms in Lagos, and this time it came with a threat of eviction. She gathered the safe room crew and asked, "Do we stop?" Timmy stood up and said, "No, we grow." And for the first time, Z let someone else hold courage for her. One rainy evening, as lightning played hide and seek with rooftops, someone knocked on the back door of the safe room. It was Shadi, drenched, older, but with the same fire in her eyes. She had returned. "They sent me away," she said, "but I came back for myself." Z didn't say anything. She simply pulled Shadi into an embrace that smelled like pepper soup. And second chances. They sat in silence, drinking Gary with granite like old times. "You've built something," Shadi said, looking around. "You've turned pain into a home." Z smiled. "I learned from the best. They didn't kiss. They didn't rush." But in that moment, Z knew some stories didn't end. They paused, and now theirs had picked up right where the brain left off. Z had always believed fabric could speak, but now she wanted it to shout. After a video leaked online of a queer person being harassed by police in Lekki, rage swept through the safe room. "We need to do something," Tommy said. Z's eyes sharp replied, "We were our protest." She designed a collection she called Unapologetic. Blazers with rainbows, linings, wrappers printed with affirmations, and agbadas staged with verses from queer poets. The centerpiece was the protest dress, a long black gown with the words "I'm enough," embroidered in 3 Nigerian languages, Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. Z wore it during a quiet walk to the market, daring stares, daring silence. That day, people didn't shout. Some looked away, some nodded. One woman whispered, "Thank you," and that was enough. It happened on a Saturday evening. Z had just closed up when a small white bus pulled up. Men in plain clothes stormed the shop, shouting, "Search!" Searching, accusing. They said they were acting on moral complaints. They found nothing illegal, but still they took Z and 2 others to the station. The news spread like wildfire. Z sat in the cells for hours, head high. Fear clawed at her, but she refused to let it win. A young officer looked at her and asked, "Are you not afraid?" She replied, "Every day, but I still show up." Eventually, with the help of a human rights lawyer who read her blog, she was released, bruised but not broken. As she stepped out into the night air, her safe room family was waiting. "So was Shadi. You're not alone," they all said. And for the first time, Z believed it. A week after the arrest, Z got a call from her mother. "I saw your name on Facebook," she said. Z braced for shouting. Instead, Mama Wuji sighed. "Your uncle sent me the story. I was angry. Then I was proud." Z nearly dropped her phone. "You don't have to agree with me, Mama. Just don't hate me." There was a long pause. "I may not understand, Adeze, but I see your strength. That mango tree was right about you." That weekend, Mama Uju sent bags of plantain granite oil and one unexpected item, a roll of fabric, bright, bold, unapologetically colorful. "Make something with it." The note read, "Maybe for me this time." Z cried harder than she had after the rain. Healing came in strange stitches, but it was happening. Inspired by the growing momentum, Z decided to make things official. With support from the safe room crew and help from a grants provided by Anonymous International LGBTQ+ Fund, she registered a creative space called KOKOLE, Home of Stories. It offered workshops in tailoring, storytelling, fashion resistance, and wellness, all centered around queer identity and African expression. It wasn't just about clothes anymore, it was about survival, joy, legacy. Tommy taught sewing classes, and other members hosted poetry night. Shadi helped build an archive of queer stories. What had started as one woman trying to breathe had become an entire community learning to fly, and still they kept the mango tree logo. Strong roots, bold branches. Years passed. Z's story traveled. Her clothes were worn on stages, red carpets, and wedding dances. Some politicians tried to discredit her. Others secretly ordered costume kaftans. Z didn't chase fame, she chased truth. But when asked one day by a journalist what she wanted her legacy to be, she smiled and said, I wanted a world, and I still want a world, where a queer girl in Lagos doesn't have to live a secret life. A world where she is not just surviving, but laughing, creating, and thriving. The story of Z became a modern folktale, told in whispers, then in poems and finally in textbooks. The tailor who turned silence into stories. The woman born under a mango tree who taught Lagos show to love louder. And somewhere in Yaba, a little shop with fabric that are bright and bolder hearts, the laughter still rings because some stories don't end, they ripple.
Like I always say, every truth deserves its moment. Do not forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell. I'll catch you in the next story. Bye.